Let's talk about the federal judge who has become Donald Trump and MAGA's worst nightmare. And he's probably the worst judge to be their worst nightmare because he's one of the most well-respected, skilled, most learned judges out there. His name is Judge Bosberg from Washington, D.C. By now, I'm sure everybody's heard the name Judge Bosberg because Donald Trump and MAGA keep whining about the guy, radical, leftist, Washington, D.C. activist who issued the injunction blocking Donald Trump from kidnapping migrants and putting them in concentration camps in El Salvador without due process. Yep, it's also the same Judge Bosberg who was again randomly assigned the case involving the Trump regime's leak of war plans on Signal, where they invited the journalist Jeffrey Goldberg, who didn't even want to be on the chat. They invited him to the chat. And then a group called American Oversight sued the Trump regime because that was a violation of public records laws and government record keeping laws. Judge Bosberg got assigned that case. He swiftly issued an injunction there as well and a document preservation order saying you need to immediately give me, preserve rather, all of the records from, I think it was March 11th to March 15th, the relevant time period. Do not delete, segregate those documents and go through the ESI protocols. Now, electronically stored information protocols. Now, what Judge Bosberg said at the beginning of the Signal Gate case is, look, the way these cases work, they're randomly assigned. I didn't pick this case. I didn't want this case. It's a random assignment, which it is in federal court. There's a lot of lawsuits happening, so I got to sign that case. I got to sign this case. And then he swiftly dealt out the right justice in that case. To give you a background quickly on Bosberg, he went to Yale, Justice Kavanaugh's roommate. He's like a basketball player. He's like 6'7", 6'8". He was in like the Skull and Bones there as well. He's been a judge now for like 25, 30 years. He was first appointed at the Washington, D.C. Superior Court level by George W. Bush. So he's got bipartisan chops. He then became a federal judge from former President Obama elevated him to the federal bench. And I've heard people, try to make the comparison. Oh, this is the left's version of like a Judge Cannon. And isn't this karma that now Donald Trump has to deal with Bosberg while Donald Trump got a pass with Cannon? And I'm like, these people could not be further from each other. Like a Bosberg experience versus a Judge Cannon experience. Harry, I know you'll be able to break that all down, but I want to just give the quick highlight finally, which is Donald Trump went to the Supreme Court on the Alien Enemies Act case. And he's saying after the D.C. Circuit affirmed Judge Bosberg blocking, enjoining, stopping the Trump regime from doing these kidnappings and renditions to El Salvador concentration camps without due process, Trump went to the Supreme Court. Oh, it's a travesty. And then he started whining about leftist judges keep issuing injunctions against me. Wah, 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 wah. So, Harry, I think it's helpful we frame it with what's going on in those cases. But the other piece here that to me is interesting is this Judge Bosberg Trump dynamic. I guess if there is karma, it's that this skilled law and order, former chief judge of the FISA courts as well, Foreign Intelligence Services Act, counterterrorism judge is on these cases.
Yeah, and Trump believes it was somehow, done on purpose. Okay, so a little bit more about everything you say is right. He's the chief judge of the D.C. District Court, Ben, and that's a really big court here. Remember, they are all the judges who labored for years trying one after another of 1,500 January 6 offenders, seeing with their eyes what kinds of people they were, lecturing them, you're no patriot, etc., only to see all their work and all the justice that had been so carefully and painstakingly doled out just completely in one fell swoop, eliminated by Trump. There were even some people on the bench saying, don't do this, which is an unusual thing. So that's That's one thing about the DC district. Another is that's where so many cases originate. And he is the chief, respected on both sides. Everything you say about his academic qualifications, but his judicial chops. He's a judge's judge. He has ruled plenty of times against Democratic administrations and Democratic political officials. He is really, considered he walks on water in that courthouse, and that is the most important courthouse. Okay, as to what's going on now, I think it's a pretty big deal, or really bears very intense focus. So, Bosberg, for all he's getting pilloried as a Marxist and whatever the hell else he is that he should be, tried for treason. The only thing he's done in both these cases is enter temporary orders saying, basically, we could go through all the specific legal subparts, but it's not as if any of his MAGA critics has. All he said is, wow, looks like there might be something here, and I'm going to put things on hold so I have a chance to decide it methodically. And by the way, if I don't do that, people could get spirited away more to El Salvador in the middle of the night, or there are other irreparable harms that could ensue. That's all he's done. All right, they took his first temporary restraining order. This isn't the fight over information about whether they violated his order. This is on the merits, but all he's done so far is say, okay, let's put a little freeze on it so I can decide. That normally would give the lower court the chance to do it for a few weeks or more. Right now, that's been extended until April 12th. And it's normally not easy to have that dissolved. You have to have a very, very good reason. They took it to the Court of Appeals, and I listened to that argument. You and I might have talked about it. It was a nail biter to me because there seemed to be clearly a Trump judge on one side, an Obama judge on the other, and then right in the middle, and keeping her own counsel, not talking, a Republican, I think George H.W. Bush appointee, Judge Henderson, who, as it turned out, came out a couple of days ago and wrote a fantastic opinion, making clear, among other things, that the judiciary has to be able to decide not just if this person is a gang member or has been, totally kidnapped and disappeared, but also if Trump is accurate to say that we are in a predatory incursion by a foreign country somehow because there are some members of this transnational group there. So now they've immediately appealed to the Supreme Court. Man, oh man, I'll take the bad side first. If they get 5 votes to dissolve a TRO under these circumstances, and after Judge Henderson, has issued this really courageous and accurate and full ruling, that'll be a really dark day that will portend more to come. But I think the betting odds will be that it'll hold, and that, there will be at least 5 votes to say, nope. And all they'd be saying, again, Ben, is you don't have that special reason to dissolve the TRO. Let's take it back to Bosberg. Let him decide. If you don't like what he does, now you can bring it up on appeal. But it will be taken under the circumstances as such a big victory for the challengers or against Trump, and conversely, even bigger if they rule for Trump. So they've done an emergency again. It's in this TRO posture, but this is a biggie.
The way to think about it, and I guess other terms, with the Trump whining about what Judge Bosberg has done is, Judge Bosberg issuing these restraining orders. I mean, it's just part of the process. Like, it reminds me of like if in a sporting event, they go to the replay booth, they pause the game for a little bit while they're trying to assess what's really happening here, because the stakes of the game could be changed dramatically. We're talking about the stakes of human beings' lives here, especially as we're learning about migrants who were kidnapped, who clearly don't seem to be gang members. I mean, the story.
And just taking a look at it, having the referees make the call rather than the coach. Right.
And then what's Trump's response? Oh my God! Oh my! And
you do a pretty good Trump there.
And it's part of their work. Thank you or unthank you. It's part of their working of the refs and the system.
Right.
And it's everything is a whine, when in the past, you may not like a ruling. You like a ruling. That's the ruling. Then you go and you file another more paperwork with the other court. And then you deal with it in a different fora. And that's just how it's dealt with. And then there's an outcome. And now I want to give that example just because what's happening here is these are not normal things. Civilian Trumps whining and attacking judges has now become, this is what the Trump DOJ does. They send their AG on Fox every day, and Bondi whines every day, the AG. And it's just like it's a loser whine fest. And it's annoying, and it's dangerous.
And it's anti-law, anti-constitutional. She just did it today again with the, she's coming out there, and it's stunning to me, Ben, that they're not gonna. Stunning. It's unprecedented and crazy that they're not doing a criminal investigation of Signalgate. Her reasons were completely threadbare, and she's just an absolute. She's not a legal figure. She's a PR figure and a kind of gal Friday for the president. I don't mean to put it into meaning terms, but they're really deserved here. She doesn't talk law at all.
Yeah, the same way Hegseth on the defense secretary side is, it's like, okay, you want to be a talking head on Fox and play soldier. It's demeaning and embarrassing, but you're not putting people's lives at risk. Now you're in these positions where character and experience and just doing the job matters. And whether it's a Hegseth, whether it's a Patel, whether it's a Bondi, you name it, it's people cosplaying the position. It's like, I could go on and on. It's like, if I was offered the position, I wouldn't take it because I shouldn't be the attorney general. I should be a podcaster who runs a media network. Now, if Harry was given the position, Harry's got the experience based on being a deputy AG and being a prosecutor who led the Western District of Pennsylvania. And so there's levels to this game. And, it's not the way it should be, but we'll do more takes on this. Subscribe to the Talking Feds YouTube channel, the Talking Feds podcast, and the Talking Feds Substack. Harry Litman's on all of those. Check it out. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you, Ben.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.